The Pittsburgh Steelers are expected to keep and extend defensive coordinator Teryl Austin, according to Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Jerry Dulac. At the same time, they are not expected to keep quarterbacks coach and interim head or offensive coordinator Mike Sullivan. According to Dulac, the potential awkwardness of the situation when you bring in a new offensive coordinator is the reason Sullivan will not be retained. He actually has an interview set up with the Las Vegas Raiders, so shout out Mike Sullivan. Love that guy. He was a pleasure to work with, and if he does not come back, wish him all the best. He was he was a blast, and he was a good dude, and he always gave you a smile and acknowledged you, and I respected a lot of what he did, and so did the players there. Let's start with TA, coming back for another year, possibly more if he's extended through his contract. Are you a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers bringing back TA with an opportunity to move on? If the contract is expired, that means that you don't really have to worry about firing anybody. It's more so we're looking in a different direction. Are you comfortable with sticking with TA moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely I am. I mean, look, this is a defense that still managed to put, I think, ranked 6th in the league in points allowed. Yes, 6th in the league in points allowed. There's 21st in yards, but 6th in the league in points allowed kind of speaks for itself, right?
Yeah.
And that is with like probably the worst injury luck that you could possibly imagine. I mean, you had no inside linebackers. By the end of the year, you had no safeties. You dealt with half a season of Cam Hayward. TJ Watt was banged up all year.
Minka Fitzpatrick out 7 games, I believe.
Right. And so I don't really put, the times that the Steelers did struggle, I didn't really put much of that on the coaching. I thought they were just kind of a decimated unit, decimated by injuries. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer, quite honestly. I don't think TA is a bad coach or a bad coordinator. And I mean, even understanding that this is Mike Tomlin's defense, and I don't think TA was completely useless. I don't think he was, just kind of standing there watching Mike Tomlin call the defense. I think he had a role to play in that, and I think he's a good coach. And I think the results kind of speak for itself. And I can't think of a reason why you'd want to move on from TA at this point. And so I'm glad they again, another guy who I thought was really good to work with. I think is a guy who's gives you great answers and can be friendly and nice to talk to. So I'm glad TA's staying around from a professional perspective, and I think it's a good move for the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's hard to judge defense when you're dealing with the injuries that the Steelers are dealing with, and yeah, they gave up a lot of yards, but my outlook is always the same. Until the offense is good, you have no idea how good the defense can be. You have no idea. These guys are older. They are exhausted by the end of the season. You're dealing with injuries. If you look at the positives, if you try to ignore, you gave up a bunch of yards. Yeah, well, you didn't give up a bunch of points, which I think is, every week outside of, I don't know, 3 or 4 games, the Steelers were in contention to win that game. It was the offense that lost it. It was not the defense. And you could blame, Houston. That was the defense. San Francisco. That was everybody. But I don't think there's another game, and there probably is. I'm probably missing somewhere. But every week, this was not the defense lost to the Steelers this game. It was the defense did a lot, and the Steelers offense did absolutely nothing. You look at the positives. He developed Joey Porter Jr. into an absolute stud in one season, which, say what you want. It takes coaching to get a rookie to be that good. Keanu Benton, the same deal. You brought Eric Rowan off the couch and turned him into a dude who was very valuable for this defense time and time again. You developed, helped develop, Keanu Benton's on that list as well, but Nick Herbig made a splash. You were able to get a lot out of your stars even when they were there. I mean, there was never, outside of the injuries, there weren't really many negatives that you're sitting around going, but this guy didn't play. But Levi Wallace didn't really play that well. Okay, that's the example. That's the strongest argument you have right now. I think that's where it lies. It's either an injured position that you're going to come up with and say, they didn't play well, or it's going to be a guy that you didn't really have high expectations for going into the season anyways. And sorry, but TA doesn't sit around and go, hey, man, we should probably sign another corner because Levi is not, he has no say in any of that. He doesn't make any of those. He doesn't even know if the practice squad guys are getting called up until they get called up. He doesn't have any say in any of that. His job is to get the defense ready. And I think overall, I think he did that. And there was a lot of positives to take away. So I'm all for that. On the other side of the ball, You got Mike Sullivan leaving, not expected to come back. I mean, you could say he did a lot of good for Mason Rudolph, and I think he did a decent job as interim head coach and play caller. I think overall, I'm not totally upset from a coaching standpoint here, just because Kenny Pickett didn't really develop in 2 years. And I think this is an opportunity to kind of go out and get an offensive or a quarterback's coach that kind of fits like a Zach Robinson type. This guy has a ton of potential instead of, kind of sticking with the old school way of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be necessarily devastated by Mike Sullivan moving on. I don't think that necessarily says that he's a bad coach either.
No, definitely not.
Right, like I think this is a guy who's getting interviewed for other jobs. So I think it might just work out well for everyone. The Steelers can get a fresh start. They can get a new set of eyes on these quarterbacks, and hopefully someone with a little bit more recent experience growing quarterbacks kind of in this era of the NFL. And Mike Sullivan can get a new opportunity somewhere else. So I think this kind of works out for everyone. I think in the NFL, it's not always an indictment on the coach himself if a team wants to move on from him. Sometimes you just need like a fresh face. Sometimes you just need a new set of eyes, new blood, whatever. And I think that's the case here. I don't really buy much of the, it would be awkward if, the play caller from last year was here with a new OC. Like, I don't know how much I buy into that. I don't think Mike Sullivan's that type of guy. And I also don't think, I don't know. I think if you're the offensive, like Mike Sullivan's not going to be up in the booth with you saying, hey, here are the plays I would call. I would have done this differently. Like,
I think you should. Third, I think you should run the football. I think you should. Like, no, he's not even. Yeah. He's not even. And knowing who Mike Sullivan is, I mean, we know who Mike Sullivan is. We've talked to Mike Sullivan plenty of times. That just doesn't strike me as the guy who's like, I'm going to make sure that my 2 cents are in there at all times. Just kind of strikes me as I'm going to follow suit. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to stay back. But I agree. I think Sullivan will find another job in the NFL. I don't think it has anything to do with him being a bad coach. It's just strictly the Pittsburgh Steelers who are looking to get new faces in there, take a step forward. And to do that, you got to change some things. And I think the quarterback's coach is a big one. And I think that's another position that they should be kind of shooting for the stars at. They should go and get somebody that they think could be the next great quarterback coach and see what he could do. Whether you're going to bring in another quarterback, whether you're going to try to develop Kenny Pickett, whether it's going to be Mason Rudolph, like you should have somebody there that's going to coach these guys that you think gives them the best opportunity possible to develop into something. And I think it goes with the offensive coordinator. Like that's what you should be looking for if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's all about trying to raise the ceiling, not keep the floor high. I think that's kind of what moving on from Mike Sullivan, I think, really indicates.
Yeah, 100%.